Oceania time.
Welcome back to the Enjoy the Walk podcast, ladies and gentlemen. As always, joined by my fellow friends Dante and Isaiah. Boys, we got some news in the golf scene this time around, don't we?
There's some stuff happening.
Seems like it's never good.
I mean, let's just jump right into it, guys. I mean, Peter Kostis basically saying more than 4 or 5 times he's not sure. Pretty bland memory for a guy that's accusing someone of cheating. Has he says Peter Kostis says he's seen Patrick Reed improve his lie like substantially to the point of worse than the bunker case. What's your guys' thoughts on that one?
Shame.
I mean, on a game that's built off of integrity, and like, let's just I want to rip because this is ridiculous. On a game that's built on integrity from not only the player side of things and the broadcasting side of things, over a 4 or 5 year period, Peter Kostis said this is happening. How is he keeping his mouth shut in all of this?
And for Peter Kostis to finally step out and say something, I think that's great. I think players should be held accountable, but players should be holding themselves accountable. And if nobody else is catching it and only Kostis is seeing it, that shows you that, you know, there's probably more cheating going on the tour than what we see. Improved lies are probably the most common cheat that a player would use. I've seen it in mini tour level. I've seen it in other areas of golf. But I think it's crazy that, like you said, they're just now catching Reed doing this.
It blows my mind that, like, you know, and like you said, it's the common it's not cheating, but I'm just trying to find a club, pull out a 7-iron, up, not the club, pat down the lie behind the ball. All right, pull out a 6-iron, not quite the club. Pull out a 4-iron, still not the club. Oh, wait a minute, the grass isn't behind my ball as much as it was anymore. Now I can get a 3-wood at it. All right, let's go for the green. You know, it's like little common inconsistencies in the game that seem to be looked over, and especially on tour when you're not on TV up near a leaderboard, it's easier to do. And I would hope, though, and I would like to agree with Peter Kostis on this, and Isaiah, it seems like maybe you disagree a little. I don't think there's that much cheating going on tour, or at least I'd like to think that there's not a bunch of guys out there doing this at the highest level. But do you disagree?
Maybe with improved lies, that's something that would be caught more and more. You know, I can think back to Dustin being in that unfortunate situation. And what was it, 2015, being in the bunker, and people were saying that he, you know, grounded his club, or some might say improved his lie. But with Reed, we just recently saw a very flagrant act in the bunker at, what was it, the Hero Challenge, where he pretty much shoveled out the lie that he had, which is really unfortunate. And he didn't exactly, apologize or, admit to being wrong. But I think it's good that he's finally being called out. But as far as cheating goes, I think there's cheating in other areas. I mean, you remember VJ used to use like elk spray, and then you got Freddie Couples doing the blood spinning, and I think Tiger did at some point, but those are out-of-country operations and cheating in a different way.
It's still relevant nonetheless. I think, maybe the kind of unforeseen, undocumented side of that distance debate that, doesn't get a lot of talk is kind of the behind-the-scenes guys working out. Are guys juicing? Is HGH a problem? I don't think it's as big of a problem or, as much as what maybe baseball had back in their steroid era. I don't think that's on the golf scene from a, really big problem perspective, but I think it's worth the talk. I think there's, enough guys dabbling in changing their bodies to gain extra yards to be part of that top upper echelon of guys hitting it a long way. So I definitely think that's a possibility too. And I think you bring up a great point there.
Yeah, for sure. And Dante, you could probably talk about how, there's a definite divide between, the players on the PGA Tour, the ones on mini tours, and even down to the amateur level. And that's just something that we're not really clued into. I mean, if it's happened 4 other times and it's just now being caught by Peter, how many other times do we think it's really happening? So Dante, do you think there's a significant divide there that's keeping us separate from that information?
I think it is, but at the end of the day too, the game is all about integrity. And, it's one within the game's always one within yourself, and you're the one that has to go to bed at night knowing what you did or didn't do. I don't know, man. It's a sticky situation. I think in my opinion, because if you think about it, you just gotta, man, because you know what you did at the end of the day, and it's tough because you even see it on the weekend Warrior games. Granted, the games that you play are a little bit more rule friendly due to the conditions of the course, but it kind of surprises me that some of these guys are trying to do whatever they can to kind of find loopholes in the game to better their chances to get a lower score, or maybe get a birdie, because probably the field's going to birdie that hole, and maybe if they can't reach it, that par 5, they're going to try and do whatever they can to try and get that one extra advantage over just the ball just sitting there. But I mean, what confuses me is these guys are playing on completely manicured, well-tuned, find perfect courses, yet they're still trying to find a way. If they are, I mean, I'm just making speculations here.
Well, I'd like to jump in there too, though, and will say I've seen some of these courses go through the ringer on day 3 or 4 of an event. Guys are hitting the ball. If they don't move the tees that much, guys are landing in the same spots for 3 or 4 days at a time. Greens are these guys are some of the best in the business, so they're taking bigger ball marks out of, the greens than most. So greens are getting beat up by the end of a 4, usually, pro-am and practice round, 5-6 day events. So I will stand up for, I think some golf course conditions aren't always perfect, especially near the end of an event. But I totally agree with what you're saying. I think it's something to be talked about, that these guys are really trying to cheat the system on some of the best conditions they're going to get.
Yeah. I mean, I get that too, but at the same time, don't you think, they're putting all this money into the course, so they're probably getting all these type of, grounds crew guys right after the tournament to go and do whatever they can to make that course basically brand new and clean up any type of divot. I can understand the divot aspect. I mean, I've seen videos of greenskeepers fixing a pitch mark, throwing some type of solvent water or solution on there, God knows what they use, and tap it out, and it's like nothing ever happened.
Yep. Now,
so I don't know. It's tough because, and I think it's tough too for Peter Costas, because if you think about it, if he's saying that he saw Patrick Reed do it all the time, and he's the only one that is doing it, and then you're saying, Patrick Reed's cheating, and turns out he wasn't, then they're going to be like, yeah, this guy's a rat. And now he's going to have a bad rap on him for some type of speculation, or whether it did happen or didn't.
Well, and he did kind of softly step it, and some of these articles are writing it up like he blatantly accused him of cheating, and he never really called him a cheater. He basically said that, from what I've seen, and Peter Costas is notorious for wearing that kind of, monitor around his neck to where he can put it up to his eyes. There's no glare, and he can see what, an up close and personal view of the broadcast, probably better than most people can see it on their TVs, and more in depth than most people are seeing on their TVs. So if anyone's going to see it over a 5-year span, it's going to be someone like Peter Costas. I don't know if the rest of the announcers are walking around with some sort of mechanism like he had, or if Peter Costas is the only one with like a wearable monitor. I would like to think the rest of the, people out there have monitors so they can see more than what they're seeing from the ground. But it's going to be guys like that, or, ladies like that. And, the Dottie Pepper instance that's covering golf, and Michelle Wee, I believe is going to be at the Masters covering golf this year. So there are some ladies involved in the coverage as well, but I'd like to think they have a little better view than most people out there of, what's going on inside the ropes.
But like we've been saying, golf is a game of integrity. At least we like to think that it is. And for a lot of us, we tend to idolize the players on the PGA Tour. And a lot of us will probably agree that they seem to be above reproach when it comes to rule situations. And also, when we're watching on TV, all that the broadcast is showing is the best of the best shots. And if Phil Mickelson happens to hit it up in the grandstand somewhere, of course, they're not going to miss an opportunity to show that. So there's so many holes in a round that aren't covered that we don't get to see, which means there's a lot of shots that, kind of fall to the wayside that us as the spectators or viewers at home aren't able to see. So I think we'd be naive to think that there isn't some sort of, cheating going on. I mean, it just so happened that Reed was caught in that instance. And I can't say that I blame him. That was horrible that his ball ended up in a footprint. I've been in that situation before, but that's why there's the rule that we play it as it lies. So
Yeah, whether it's in
No
a
excuse.
footprint in a bunker or off Frankenstein's fat foot, you got to play the dang ball.
Yep.
And I
Um,
think it's but as much as that sucks, and that's what's so great about the game of golf is that that's a relatable shot to any weekend player
Mm.
that goes out and plays
yeah,
because
we've all
we've been
been
there
there.
too.
Yep.
And we play courses where, that group in front of you, they're loosely raking the bunker anyway. I mean, you see a shot like that every time my dad and I, we watch a tournament and we see some type of mishap on the course. They miss a 2-footer, they shank one, you name it. It's always, we do that every single time. So as much as that sucks to see a pro tour player doing that, it's also kind of cool to see that it's on a related. They're kind of on the same level as us at times. It's
Yeah, it is nice to see like the tour pro probably thinking, son of a bitch, like I gotta hit it from there. And it's like that statement has run through, I guarantee you, every amateur's mind at some point. Like, are you kidding me? I really put myself in that position out of everywhere. So it is relatable, and it is kind of funny to see that the pros are maybe a little more common man than we all think at the end of the day. And one thing I do want to point out is that Peter Kostis was kind of mentioned, which I thought was curious, and this is why I want to get into it. He said he's not even sure if he knows he's doing it sometimes when he's kind of like tapping a lie down behind his ball or something like that. And he said, I'm not assigning an intent to if he's trying to better his lie or not. He said, I'm not going to call him a cheater. He's just kind of telling us what his firsthand account was. So like, what's your guys' thoughts on that? Do you think there's a point at where maybe just Patrick Reed's been doing that kind of thing for so long, whether it's purposely intending to improve his lie, that it's just become second nature to him at this point and he doesn't even think it's cheating? Or do you think it's just maybe a routine that he's gotten himself into where it's not truly intending on making the ball, the better lie for himself?
I could see it from both ways. A lot of people don't necessarily realize that these guys are so dead set in a routine. They've trained themselves to be machines. Let's say you watch Justin Rose or Victor Hovland. Victor Hovland's going to get over his shot and he's always going to do his pumps and then he's going to hit it. And it's just second nature. It's been ingrained over 20, 30,000 hours of practice and time. So I'll give Reed the benefit of the doubt and say, there's probably times where it looks like he was cheating and he most likely wasn't and doesn't even pay any attention to it. But this is the first time we've actually seen a tour player being called out for improving his lie, and it's only been called out by one guy. And we've also seen how Reed was so quick to threaten, what was it, a lawsuit? That long ago,
Brandel Chamblee, a cease and desist of all records, basically defaming him, saying it was hurtful to his career.
Yep. So we have him filing that against Chamblee, and just like us, we're united in this. We run media together. We have a great time. You got to imagine that there's ties among all broadcasters through the golf channel. So I think in a way it could just be Costas trying to point out how big of a jerk that Reed might be. He may have actually seen something. He may not have, but I think going after Chamblee the way that Reed did was inappropriate. And I think that Costas might also be doing a little headhunting for that.
I think Chamblee put it perfect. I believe the Floor Play Pod from Barstool talked to Chamblee about it, and Chamblee basically said, hey, if he wants to come after me, he obviously hasn't read the First Amendment. I have a right to say what my eyes see, and us as media have a right to say, listen, it looked like you cheated. It sure as hell looked like you cheated. I don't know what your situation was, and I don't know what you saw. And, his account of the matter is pretty much what stands true. But we're allowed to say what we want to say as media, and that can't really be, taken from us. And I think Chamblee is doing the right thing and standing his ground on that. It's a shame. And I think maybe he's feeling a little guilty, maybe is the way I look at it from Patrick Reed's standpoint. If you're coming at someone that's attacking you for being a cheater, you almost have a guilty conscience of saying, all right, well, maybe I got caught in the act of cheating. I've done it for a while and I finally got caught and now it's put me on blast. So it needs to be quieted. So I could see it from both ways of where maybe he doesn't know it, but it seems like he's got a guilty conscience.
And I think from the golf world, it's just so hard to come back from being labeled as a cheater.
There's nothing worse.
and you're just blacklisted immediately. And it's tough too. Even if, say, I mean, granted that Hero World Challenge video, but you have, even if you're not a cheater and you just get that one person to point a finger and then word spreads, this guy cheats, man, you on the golf course, you are doomed. And yeah, there's really no turning back from that. And I don't know how.
It's
how
funny.
I don't even know if you can.
Yeah, I don't think you can, because I just look at kids that I played with, even in junior golf, and kids that I know were notorious cheaters in junior golf. Still to this day, like in their inner circle, and even people they play with to this day are like, "Oh, watch out for that guy." It's like it stands true. Once a cheater, always a cheater. It's because the minute you get away with something one time is the minute you feel like you're invincible, and the minute that it just never leaves your routine.
We've got guys in my club that we've caught in the middle of the act, like a couple of holes later, and on the spot they basically were muffled. Well, I thought it was the ball. The one ball that he was using was actually marked, and the other one that he finished with wasn't. It's tough, and at the end of the day, we'll say it again, it all goes back on you, and how you can sleep at night.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to kind of wrap up that discussion. Is basically, man, I don't care if you cheat, like, and I look at it this way too. He didn't win that tournament. He ended up going on to, I think, make double bogey one of the later holes. I'm a big fan of karma. And I think if you cheat, it's going to come back to bite you, whether it's in that, next 20, 30 minutes or next 20 or 30 years. I think, obviously it's going to tarnish a reputation, which is a shame because he's a hell of a golfer. But I just think there's always going to be a kind of an asterisk beside anything Patrick Reed does from here on out, saying, yeah, but
don't piss off the golf gods.
You can't.
You don't want to do that. That's not good.
They run the world.
Thinking back, we Dalton, you had asked if I really think there's more cheating going on the PGA Tour than what we notice at home. I think the most or the least paid attention to form of cheating is the way that people mark their golf ball on the green. Now, if when you put the ball down on the green, right, you approach it, you put your mark down directly behind the ball and pick it up so you can clean it or your caddy can clean it. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people actually take that mark and move it up to the right or the left side, outside the boundaries of that 10 and 2 where you're supposed to mark it in.
Yep.
And they'll actually move it an inch or two forward and say, no, it was about this far in front of the mark, or maybe it was like this far, and people don't quite catch it. But
I'm so glad you brought that up, because they in a recent interview, Phil Mickelson was just kind of asked about cheating and everything, and his comments were, I know a number of guys out there on tour that are loose with how they mark their ball.
I was just gonna say that.
And it's so funny because it's just, when you see someone such as an icon like Phil Mickelson even admit, these guys are way beyond their bounds of proper marking, it does beg to differ. All right, so maybe they're not doing the full shots, but little 2 or 3 inches here over a grand scheme of things when the cup's only 4 inches round is a big deal. And I think that goes on not even in only professional golf, but really in amateur golf. I would say especially in amateur golf.
Especially in the member events at the club. Yo, I heard this story, right, from my buddies up back at the promised land in Dunder Mifflin world. Anyway, I guess a father and son were playing in a member event. Some type of crazy, pretty big money was in it and whatnot. I forget whether it was the father or the son, but anytime he marked his ball, the coins down, it was like magnetic. And whatever he would do, he'd put his putter club down and over it, and he'll push it forward, lift it, and then when he gets up, he'll put, when it's time to go, he'll put his ball back. Well, someone called him out, and man, they've never stepped back. I don't think they've ever stepped back.
I was gonna say, I feel like cheating in a member guest or an event at a club like that is almost worse than someone cheating on tour, because those guys take those events sacred, especially the members at those clubs.
Mm,
You'll be never allowed back in a heartbeat.
yeah, lynched every
Because
second.
those are that's the majors for, you know,
Mm.
your amateur golf player that, you know, that's not doing, you know, the higher end amateur events, maybe like USGAMs or whatever.
Mhm.
These are like, I'll even admit, when we have our member events or our club championship, or, you know, any type of something that's, you know, or we got some members that run some pretty fun big money better ball tournaments on the side. You know, those are the majors that I look forward to, because, you know, you're still with your group of buddies, you're with the camaraderie, but that's where, you know, all right, I'm in a competitive level. I'm going to basically grind out all this, knowing because there's other events that I'm not eligible, or I'm just not that good enough. So yeah, you do that, you're gone.
Mm.
Yeah.
And a big thing I've noticed, especially in college golf, a lot of people are non-confrontational when it comes to rulings and don't really want to be involved with it. You know, they see a guy hit a terrible shot, pulls it 50 yards left off line. It's deep in the hippie lettuce, and they say, "Yeah, I think the ball kind of crossed on this line." You know, the person that pulled it left will say, "I think it crossed on this line or that line. So is it okay if I just drop here? Do you guys agree with that?" And because we don't want to argue, we'll say, "Yeah, that's fine. I mean, you're probably looking at double anyway from there, so it doesn't really matter to us." But I think ball drops are probably the second most fudged ruling
I want
on any
to
tour.
share a story, because the ball drop predicament reminds me of when I was caddying for you up in the Pittsburgh area. I believe it was maybe first round. You fanned one just a little left, and I think the third guy in your group that we were playing with was just kind of like you said, didn't care, couldn't have given one or two or three or however many craps about where you dropped. So, you know, and I had agreed with you where we were going to drop, but the one guy in the group refused to say that you crossed here. He thought you crossed like 50 yards back, to the point where I thought you two were going to just throw fists at each other. And it was funny because the other guy in your group just didn't care and just kept walking. So it was out to you two, and we had no rules official anywhere close that could see anything. So basically what it boiled down to is, because the one guy in the group stood up and wanted to be an absolute ass about it, you had to drop 50 some yards back. And it's funny how that does work. You get a lot of guys who are really cool about the rules of golf. And I'm not saying cool as in like loose. I'm saying cool as in what they know the rules of golf are, but understanding, okay, hey, like, let's meet in the middle here and provide a good ruling, but a ruling that fits everyone. And I think sometimes guys can be a little too tight with the rules when it comes to, they think they know a rule maybe better than you, and they just don't. But yeah, there's a lot of gray area in rules, like decisions like that.
I think that's just a tough, for amateur golf, I think that's a tough rule too, because unlike the pros or whatever, you pretty much have spotters almost on every hole, so they can pinpoint exactly where it crossed. So, you know, you have the most accurate line and know the appropriate location to drop. When you're just playing your weekend round or even like an amateur event, it's tough because, hell, my eyes suck. So I'm seeing once that ball goes a certain distance, it's, you know, a little fuzzy, but it's, that situation that you're saying blows, because the one kid's just like, I'm doing my thing, screw you guys.
Yeah. He was like 150 yards past everybody else at that point. He had no like want or need to have a conversation at that point.
And I just think, even, I mean, granted that was, you know, more of a tournament base, but if you're going out and playing a game, or you're playing as some type of tournament, at least have some type of set ground rules beforehand to basically say, hey, if we run into this scenario, do this. But yeah, I just think that's probably one of the toughest rules.
It's harder when players just won't meet in the middle. They can't find an agreement somewhere. And what that boils down to is just calling a rules official. If you have to wait, don't be scared of the ruling. Don't be scared of what's going to happen. Rules officials out there to help you. And in college, I went through several experiences where I just immediately called an official. I had no clue what to do on the ruling. And it turned out better for me to call the official than what I thought it would, because there was a viewpoint and a ruling loophole that I had no clue about. So for any tournament golfers, just learn to call the official. It's better
That
for
and-
you that way.
Then you'll end up learning more.
That, and look at Dustin Johnson. If he had just called rules official right there to define the bunker he was in, he would have known. He probably would have won from that point.
Easily.
Mhm.
I mean, he did win, and then they gave him the stroke penalty or whatever, and then it was over. But yeah, I think do one quick more story about that, and then we'll move on to the Genesis. But it's a perfect example, like you said. Call a rules official if you have a problem, and then if the first rules official kind of gives you like a wishy-washy answer for it, wait for another. There's always kind of an honor system, I guess you could say, or a tier system of rules officials that are there. So sometimes the first one that comes out isn't the end-all be-all scenario. And when I was in a Maryland amateur event, I hit a ball that ended up on a bridge.
Yep.
And I couldn't go back because the bridge was kind of arcing a environmentally safe zone in which you could not play from. So like club length wouldn't have got me off the bridge either direction. Would have had to take an unplayable, which was back like 40 yards behind trees. Basically, it was like my first option. So I opted, as I said, okay, I'll just play it off the bridge. And the first rules official actually said, since the bridge was crossing an environmentally safe area, I couldn't play it off the bridge. And I was like, well, that's just a bunch of BS. Call your superior. And I actually had to fight with her a little bit to even get her to call somebody else. But it was to my advantage to wait. I let the other two guys in my group finish out the hole, keep on play. And second rules official comes and says, yeah, I mean, you can play it. So it is beneficial. There's a line maybe to be said, don't cross the line with rules officials. They do know the rules. So don't think, that you can just wait there all day, because that not only pisses people in your group off, but the entire tournament, when slow play becomes a factor. But definitely you are granted due diligence with rules officials. So definitely take that to your advantage.
Mm-hmm.
But so on to the Genesis, and we were shown a little glimpse that maybe Tiger, after all these years, would get a W after his first round. He was hanging out in the top 10. And then I don't know if he just got weekend jitters or what in the Genesis Open has ever done to Tiger Woods, but he just cannot seem to find the formula for this place.
I can't seem to find the formula to pick a player that's going to finish inside the top 10. That is pick number 3 or 4. I think I chose Vegas.
Did he make the cut?
No.
Hey,
I don't think so. I think he was plus 20 something.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I'm right there with you.
So
Yeah.
I snuck out a top 20 with Patrick Cantlay for my pick this week. So I'm sticking with top 20s. I had to move my top 10 streak down a little bit, but I'm there. We're in the realm of possibility with some good picks. But
acceptable
got
choices.
cut.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
I wasn't expecting that.
No.
His finish
he was
last
gonna
year
be
was
up-
great.
I know. I thought he was going to be out for basically. I thought he was going to get the W. Out for revenge. Wanted to redeem himself.
I want to say how no one, after Hideki's history here, why no one picked him. But again, another top 5 for Hideki here at Genesis. He seems to always
He's
play this well.
sneaky.
Like, I don't know why, but every time I'm like, you just don't want to pick Hideki top 10. He just, for some reason, somehow, some way, just always slides up there. A Saturday 64 usually helps that, which he was able to produce. So,
I
he's
thought my guy HV3 was going to close it out until good old top shot on 10, and they didn't even show that. They had no video of that.
So it came
That's
out like
amazing.
45 minutes after, and from the way I understand it, it actually wasn't CBS's cameras that caught it. It was one of the PGA Tour Live's cameras that just happened to be on like post-production. So their camera was on, it was on the tee box, but it wasn't part of their production either. So like that shot was never caught live, which blows my mind. You have a guy leading the golf tournament on a Sunday, and we're seeing Tiger Woods, who's T68, last place, +6, play the round of golf. I get he's one of the greatest players, but that just cannot happen if you want to grow the game. And I think it's just nuts.
And that ties back into the conversation we were just having about, there being so many missed shots out on the PGA Tour. So if there's cheating going on out there, the PGA Tour And the Golf Channel are going to spend so much more time focusing on what Tiger Woods is doing and miss all these other talented players that have worked so hard to get out to this, the upper echelon of golf. So, I mean, that right there is a perfect example of how many missed shots there are.
Yeah, and then we didn't see the rest of that hole even. We didn't see his third shot. We didn't see his recovery shot. Like the only shot they showed of him until he got back to the green was his second shot, and it was like 178 yards left, and you're like, it's a 348-yard hole. It's like not that long of a hole. What the hell happened? How did his tee shot only go 120 yards?
Got lost out.
No one knew.
Man.
No one knew. Like you put it perfectly. It just golf broadcast has to change, man. It's got to change. I want to see golf. I don't know what the remedy is. I'm not trying to speak like I understand the inner workings of how a TV broadcast is put out there, because I don't. But something's got to change. There's got to be a better formula to broadcast golf than what they got right now.
They really do, because I know Bubba Watson said it one time. He said golf's boring.
Yeah.
He goes, I love the game. I love playing it, but it's boring. And I even tell friends of mine too. They ask if I watch golf, and I'm like, well, it's good to take a nap too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I usually I'm coming back from, around, and I'm catching up, as the midday, or it's coming down the stretch near the end. And, I'm a little tired from the round or whatnot, but, I want to see what's going on, especially on the majors. Next thing I know, it's over and I'm waking up.
Mm-hmm.
So what's that say? I just think they need to come up with better strategies on how to cover it. To me, a lot of the times it just seems they're always showing people on the green making a putt. I want to see those shots into the greens. I want to see those crazy, long iron, mid iron shots.
I think it was Waste Management Week. I don't remember what social media account was kind of like trolling the PGA Tour, but they were, how people in basketball games on the side lanes will do the pass, dribble, pass. They'll do, the recount of what's going on in the game. There was someone tweeting that out and got up to like 20 putts in a row. The PGA Tour showed over 20 putts in a row. You want to talk about, I'd rather watch paint dry.
Yeah.
Then watch people make putts for 20 shots probably accounts to just close to an hour, 40 minutes of coverage of just people putting
with commercials.
Sometimes I think it's
that
more.
That cannot happen.
60 minutes, right? Within an hour. I honestly think 30 minutes. I think it's split half and half on commercials to what you're seeing on actual golf.
Oh, I would completely agree, if not more, especially when it's not a Sunday. Your Saturday midday groupings, they're not showing golf, which is ridiculous. Like, we want to see these guys play. All these guys that are out there on tour deserve their TV time, and it's why we're fans of golf. Like, we're constantly, I know my buddies and I are constantly like, oh, did you get PGA Tour Live? Let's watch the Thursday, Friday. Like, the Thursday, Friday PGA Tour Live coverage is 10 times better than the CBS coverage, because you're actually getting to watch the entire field play.
Yep.
That and going in back to the putting thing, everybody really knows how to putt, whether they know how to putt and can make the putt or they know the concept of putting.
Yeah.
Keep the ball on the ground and keep it rolling. You want a nice forward roll with the putt, kind of pick your line and play the break. When it comes to shots, show more shots into the green so the average golfer can learn something. It can be a great learning experience too, watching, okay, how's this guy going to get out of a bunker? How's he going to get out of a fairway bunker? Oh, he's on top of kind of stepped on grass or some bad lie. What's he doing? Kind of get it up close on that. I think that would be a great way to broadcast. Then you'll keep people more engaged. And then, the average player can take that to the course or take that to the range and figure it out. How can I do that to myself if I get myself in that type of situation?
Yeah, I mean, perfect example of that. And they actually did get to catch this on camera, so I'm happy we got to see this. But Ryan Palmer kind of struggled out of the par 3 14th holes bunker. He ended up taking 6 shots out of the bunker. And it just goes to show you how tough Riviera is playing. There's a lot of undulation in this course that you just don't see around these greens and even on the greens. But there's another thing. I think I would like to see the tour maybe, do a little bit more with like showing how much undulation these courses have. I don't know how to do it. Maybe give us some, like, I know, like, it has to be easy to put maybe GoPros on these people walking inside the ropes with them, and like live stream us a GoPro to show us what their position is that's like looking 30 degrees down or something like that. Like, there's got to be better ways to show it than these tabletop 30 feet in the air cameras that are just giving us a bird's eye view.
That and the film technology that we have today, especially with cameras, like you said, a GoPro would be fantastic. But how difficult is it to mount a gyro with a camera inside and actually place it on top of the flag stick? If you remember, what was it? Marion has the baskets on top of the flags. Why not make that part of the filming arrangement on the courses, where the gyro could sit on top of the flag stick? You'd be able to see undulations from that point. But if there's something I really want to see more, I want to see more filming of the players that bridge the gap between professional golf and amateur golf, more specifically at the collegiate level, because those are the players you can go to just about any country club or any decent course in the United States and come across a college player. Now we're talking about the guys and girls that have all the ability in the world to play golf at the next level, but they're still stuck competing at the amateur level, and they're just, Joe and Sally that you can walk up to and play a round of golf with on any given weekend or weekday if you want to, as opposed to these PGA Tour guys and LPGA players. You don't always have that opportunity. So I'd like to see more coverage from the up and comers. Korn Ferry coverage is a little bit better than PGA, I think, but overall there's got to be a revamp of how broadcast is done.
And what's the shame is, I think Korn Ferry's better because they don't have as many sponsors.
Yeah.
If you're looking at it from like what takes up most TV time, the PGA has to give so much time to every freaking sponsor and update your FedEx Cup stand. Like, I'm sorry, no one cares about your FedEx Cup standings.
Nope. I don't even know what they are. I don't understand the system.
You ask any interview, and Peter Kostis made a perfect point to this too, and I'm not meaning to steal his entire, freaking interview, but when he interviews someone after a golf tournament that they've won, they don't ask, "Hey, Peter, where do I stand in the FedEx Cup?" They say, "Hey, Peter, I have a job for 2 years now. Hey, Peter, I got in the Masters. Hey, Peter, I'm in the next, U.S. Open, British Open, whatever." The last thing on their mind is FedEx Cup points until they get down to the playoffs, and then it's worth 10 mil. Like, I get it from that perspective. But a regular weekly PGA Tour event, no one cares about that.
Yeah, when they're one of the top 30 in FedEx Cup points, then they'll care.
Yep.
But Isaiah, I'll agree with you on that one. The younger or those up and coming, like, I enjoy when they have those NCAA tournaments at the end of the year and at the beginning of the season too, where watching those kids, the men and women play, I mean, they just go after it, and it's exciting too because they're giving it everything, and basically they have no fear. They do not care where the ball's going to go. And the same thing with the Korn Ferry. These guys are trying to make it on tour, so they're just going birdie or better. So they're just swinging for the fences.
I think a great thing that the Golf Channel has started to put coverage on is the East Lake Cup. Now, granted, it's only 7 schools currently. I think it can be grown to a lot bigger of a broad spectrum as far as schools competing in it. But I would like to see something like the East Lake Cup maybe sidestep or branch off from the NCAA and have its own kind of competition with like 30 or 40 schools, maybe be a season-long event that schools can qualify for. And, there's national or regional qualifiers for an East Lake Cup championship or something like that. I think you're going to see a lot of sports start to sidestep the NCAA in some way, shape, or form. The more you look into the rulings about kids getting paid and stuff like that, I think we're only at the beginning of seeing collegiate athletes on TV, especially in the golf scene, a lot more regularly. So I think stuff like that is just what golf fans are begging for. Your collegiate players that, like you said, Isaiah, they're making seamless transitions these days into the pro ranks. These guys are good, man. These guys are freaking good.
They're all good. And between the months of February and April, from the Division I level to the Division III level and even club sports, There's at least a half a dozen large events that take place in Florida, which we all know that's PGA headquarters. My question is, why aren't they, taking advantage of that opportunity to showcase some of the best players in the country, which all the good teams are going there? Why not take that chance?
Because it's not money worthy. It's not beneficial for them to go make millions of dollars off of it, I think is what it boils down to. And that's where the game suffers. The game is so steadfast right now. You look at PGA Tour's rights on media. Nothing can be produced outside of the PGA Tour when it comes to their golf content for each and every week, whether it's Korn Ferry Tour, PGA Tour, whatever. It's a perfect example of Bob Menery. For those people who don't know who Bob Menery is, he's a hilarious, broadcaster in his own right, just on the social media side of things, that makes funny kind of ad libs and like talkovers on good content. And the PGA Tour has basically sent him multiple cease and desists for making golf funny, for just making good, funny, viral videos about the game of golf. And it's like, if we can't have that in our game, we're going to be stuck. And you're on a fast decline if people can't share your product. Like, I understand they want their logo on everything, but it makes it tough to really thrive and grow when you put such a restrictor on everything that goes out.
Yeah, it's confusing too, because, and a lot of other people have said it before. They say, you want the game to grow, but at the same time, it's almost as they're taking 2 steps back. They're almost contradicting themselves. Yeah, let's grow the game, but you can't do that. Oh, we're on this great stride to make the game even more enjoyable. Nah, we're gonna stop doing that, or we're gonna put a halt on that. And it's pick one or the other. And in my opinion, I hope you're picking let's grow the game, because we've said it before. It's in a pretty good spot right now.
Yeah, or we're allowing the PGA Tour to define the way that the game can grow. And if it doesn't align with their expectation, then, obviously it's not good enough. And the only reason they're really able to do that is because they have such a large share of that market. I mean, that is the end all beat all when it comes to the tour to play on. I mean, European Tour has a lot of talent and there's large chunks of money there, and the same trickles down into the Korn Ferry Tour, but there's no other place in the world that's, offering up a tour or, a place for these players to go and play and, throwing a $1.3 or $2 million or $8 million purse at them. But there are some new developments happening with, I think it's the PGL, Professional Golf League, coming up, and there's been large chunks of money been thrown at some top players. So I think this could be, a real shift in media at this point.
Yeah, we dabbled in, a little bit of it in our last episode, and I think it's a perfect time to maybe go over a little bit more of it. They released a structure, I guess you could say, to how they're going to run these events, to what they're going to provide for these golfers. And it's interesting because everyone knows at this point where the money's coming from. It's coming from, Saudi Arabia, Dubai. It's coming from maybe a little questionable, dirty money. And I think throws some red flags for some people, not Phil Mickelson, but some people. And Rory McIlroy was kind of very, very quick to stand up today and say, yeah, I'm out. He was quoted saying, I'm not one for being told what to do. And it seems like if entering into this league, I'm going to be nothing more than the PGL's pawn in a bigger scheme. So it seems like, I don't know what the whole deal is. I'm still struggling to understand what their grasp is on their players that they bring over to the PGA Tour or the PGL Tour. But it seems like there's a lot maybe behind the scenes that we're still waiting to hear on, of why guys aren't wanting to join this big league, because the money's there.
Yeah. I mean, it's there. I mean, the offerings on the table amounts to, almost $750 million at this point, just for 3 players or 4 players to come play. So there's a lot of money getting tossed around. They obviously, they're getting it from somewhere. So got that oil money or who knows where it came from.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. So, like, just to kind of read off of the stats here of how they're going to run it, the Professional Golf League is structured to support 48 teams. So it's 10 golf pros to a team, which is interesting to me. So, like, I don't know, and it doesn't state here if they're going to run it per like continent, per country. But it just says they're going to run it in more of a team atmosphere. So, which I do think is interesting. I'm on the fence of, all right, tell me more. Because I think if I'm brought a weekly team event beside the PGA Tour, so like I'm still going to watch PGA Tour golf.
Yeah,
it's not going to get me to turn off the PGA Tour. But if it's something that's bringing me a team style event, like a President's Cup on steroids, or it's not going to be a Ryder Cup by any means. But if it's 5, or it looks like they're saying here, so 48 teams, so maybe, 48 guys, so close to 50 guys, 10 teams, so 5 teams per week fighting for a team cup and an individual spot. I'm interested in seeing, what that all involves. I think it might bring a different twist to golf, competitive golf. I don't know. It'll be interesting because I don't know how guys are going to qualify for it. Is it just hand-picked? Is it invitation only? Is there going to be a filter league like there is with Corn Ferry and the web.com, or was the web.com? Or, I'm interested to see the format. I'm not bought in, but I'm on the fence of letting them tell me more. I'm not shutting it down at this point yet.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's definitely a way to promote and expose golf in other ways, because the PGA Tour has been around forever and it's constant stroke play events, individual. So throwing a team aspect, switching it up a little bit, which I think the PGA should do more of. But then again, everybody talks about how's it going to affect the standings? How's it going to affect FedEx Cup points, this and that? To me, it's a little weird, but I know what they want to do. Obviously, they want to basically take over the PGA, which I don't think it's going to happen. PGA's has a pretty strong ground. They ain't moving. But what I can see is I think a lot of younger or up-and-coming players would try and want to get on there so they can make some big money fast in hopes to set themselves up for a longer career for the PGA. But the only thing I see that's an issue there is the PGL is going to want to come after the big names because that brings the ratings in.
Yeah. So I'm looking here too, and it kind of stems off of what you just said of getting big money fast. So each team, they're running what's called a team pricing sponsorship opportunity. $500,000 per team is what it costs to buy a team in the PGL. I think that's a little bit of a money grab, don't you think? So
is this an outside investor that picks the team?
It's very vague, and I think there's so much more to come here on news pertaining to the PGL. But yeah, $500,000 to own a team, pretty much, and that would basically guarantee money for the players that even don't win, for travel, et cetera, et cetera. It says, just a lot of details yet to be ironed out. But I think, they're saying Tiger was offered upwards of $250 million to join. This is going to turn into an XFL deal very quickly. I think it's going to have a lot of hype off the bat. First week's going to have a lot of viewers, and then you're just going to see a tank, I think, from there on out. I'd like to say that's not the case, because I love seeing other options like this in professional sports. It bugs me that the PGA has such a, monopoly on professional golf. I think it's an interesting concept. It's going to be interesting to see who jumps, and are the players that jump going to be, ostracized from the rest of both professional tours, PGA and the European Tour.
I can kind of see that after you just saying this buy-in and this team aspect. I can see someone with big money buy-in, basically their stadium, their team. You know, they're the owner of this team, kind of just like any type of sports team. You got the owner, and then you recruit the players, you have them sign contracts. Contracts probably say, hey, you have to play in X amount of events. We'll pay you this X amount of dollars. However, you can't play in any PGA events. You can't play in any European events. And that will be a big red flag to a lot of players because majors are everything to those guys.
Let me look at it from this perspective real quick. And
That's how I see it.
I like where your head's going, but I think, I don't think it'll ever stop anyone from playing majors. Here's what I think it might bring that might be pretty cool to see. It might bring more competition to the majors because you're going to have the guys that represent the PGA. You're going to have guys that represent the European Tour. And then you're going to bring this kind of third, vagabonds per se of guys that are just out on their own that jumped and want to prove something and say, yeah, we're representing the PGL. We're PGL players. We're here to kick not only the PGA Tour's players' asses, but we're here to kick the European Tour's ass and win a major for the PGL. So it almost could be good for golf and create some more rivalries that we really need in the game of golf. Because right now we have this kind of like Kim Kardashian style Brooks Koepka versus Bryson, which is just getting on my nerves at this point that they're still talking about how far each other can hit the ball and who's going to hit it farther than who. There's no secret. I think Brooks hates Bryson, and it's just, out there in the open. But I think there's better.
I think they just want drama. That's the thing.
There's better.
Rivalries.
There's better rivalries in the game of golf to be had. Than did I?
Yeah.
Ugh. Than Brooks and Bryce. Yeah.
But no.
Well, with the PGL, this might be Tiger's best shot at retaining a world number one again, because he clearly has zero chance of holding that spot again.
That's the other great question. Do PGL events start counting in the world golf ranking system? They almost have to, don't they?
I would think they do.
But what weight do they hold? How many points do they hold? You know what I'm saying? Like if guys start going on a run on the PGL that aren't playing against PGA and European, and they start saying, well, I'm the best golfer on the PGL, what does that weight hold in the world golf ranking? It can be interesting really quick and start some good rivalries, which I think might actually be good for the game of golf.
Yeah, I think they can take the PGA system and copy it to a T and name it something else, and therefore it's a little bit different. And
perfect time for UPS to jump in and be the UPS standings instead of
FedEx.
My God. You're welcome.
Yeah. But now to get back to your point in the drama and the rivalries, because, having rivals and all that, because you're seeing a lot of these guys come on tour and they're all buddy, which is great. It's cool to see because that camaraderie is getting bigger. But at the same time, you don't have – back in the day, it was the Tiger and Phil back and forth kind of thing. The field's so large and the field's so good that it's not – you don't really have on the PGA two guys that are really duking it out almost every other tournament with each other. Every time you turn around, someone else is winning or, there's really no – they tried to do the Rory and Brooks, and Rory kind of shut that down. And then – same thing we're saying the Bryson and the Brooks thing, but that's more on a social status.
I was gonna say that's such a catty social media.
It's not. Yeah, that's a PR move right there. It's not necessarily the players' playing ability. It's just a PR stunt at this point.
Yeah, it's a headline grab.
Yeah.
It's nothing
So
more
they don't really have anything like that. So I can see that on the having well I'm this PGL guy, who's this PGA punk over here? And then, they're duking out kind of, it's almost not a Ryder Cup thing, but you're playing for your association at this point.
I'd really like to be a fly on the wall for the conversations that have gone on between, the big wigs of the PGA Tour and players such as Rory or Dustin. And I would wonder if they had sat them down in a meeting and said, if you take this offer that's on the table, you can consider your PGA status null and void. Your lifetime exemption that you may have, Mr. Woods, we have the authority to yank that and not let you back on the tour, even though he pretty much made it everything that it is today between him and Arnie and Jack, But that would be a big question for me. And that would be a huge decision to make. Do I want to sacrifice, all of my hard work and these years of exemptions just so I can go try something new,
Yeah. And I mean, this is all kind of PR hoopla in itself too. Nothing's in stone. No events have been scheduled that have been open for entry, and we're all chomping at the bit, seeing who hops. I mean, it's all kind of hearsay. And, the European chief executive, Keith Pelly, kind of alluded to that. He's like, we're focusing on the business of our tour, and whether other tours, whether they're true or fictional, they don't really have any say in the way we run our tour. So it's almost basically, and I think the PGA Tour is going to take the same stance on it. Whether they really do start up or not, it's not going to change in one bit the way we run our organization. Until maybe the PGL starts having a year or two where they succeed and really start, becoming a powerhouse. No one's going to care about them from an executive level.
And it's not well established.
It takes proof in the pudding to set something up that's going to contend with these juggernauts of the golf industry.
Yeah, it's just all talk at this point.
But boy, it's good talk.
Yeah.
You're stirring the pot.
And it's at a perfect time where I think everyone realizes, and it's the same way with the NFL too, everyone realizes there's a need for something else. We just talked about it for 20, 30 minutes. The broadcast sucks. There's a perfect opportunity to jump into this space and take over. If your broadcast is good, people are going to watch it because everyone knows there's good golf being played out there. It's just not being shown. So there's definitely room to put yourselves in the conversation of, hey, maybe it is time for a new tour. Shooters tour.
I'm on board. I'll watch. Subscriber number 1 right here.
Listen, at the end of the day, whoever's going to show the most golf, actual played golf, not putting on the green and not commercials, I'm probably going to tune into that most. Half the time, I don't even watch I don't even watch the PGA events. I just go, on YouTube maybe a couple of days later just to get some highlights. Highlights of shots. Just so I can see golf and not commercials.
So are you explaining to everyone out there to never trust your picks going into the WGC next week?
Oh, hell no. Hey, whoever. Man, I wish I had people reaching out now. I mean, you could have said, who don't you want to win? I'll pick them to win, and they'll probably end up getting cut.
Yeah, if there's a pick A or B and you want B to miss the cut, choose these guys' picks all the time. So I apologize for our listeners that we just two-thirds of us just don't pick well in the golf drafting industry. But if you guys
if you lost money,
please don't put money on our bets. It's not good, not good at all. But alluding into that, we have next week we've got the WGC Mexico. Some notables that aren't making the trip. Tiger, he's not going. And I kind of want to get back to that a little bit too, because we kind of skipped over it as we looked into the PGL. Tiger finishing dead last at the Genesis and then not showing up next week at the WGC.
Isn't it this week?
Yeah, this weekend coming up.
Gotcha.
Do you think he's hurt at all, or is he just tired? Is he just prepping himself for Augusta as always? Like he keeps saying he wants to get back to world number 1, but pulling out of a world golf event is not a good method to getting back to number 1. Like you got to win a couple of those to get back to world number 1.
I mean, if you're Tiger Woods, do you really freaking care when your bank account has 27 freaking figures in it? I mean, I don't think you do at all. I think he's got more money than God himself. And at some point you got to stop. I think you stop caring so much about the events. You start caring more about majors. I think he is focusing in on that. We have, obviously, the Masters is right around the corner. But I think part of his poor play is there was so much reflection and so much focus on Kobe just recently dying. And I think the PGA and everyone else did a great job of trying to remind us all of, how influential Kobe was for all sports. But at the same time, I'm thinking, Tiger might have been a little bit emotional during that period of time, thinking of losing a friend. But for me personally, I think a lot of guys were put in a situation that they've maybe not necessarily been in, but one other time. I remember Arnie passed in this past couple years, and that was an emotional time up on that first tee box, and everybody was remembering Arnie passing, and now with Kobe passing, there was a lot of remembrance of him. But to me, I think it was more of a funeral than a golf tournament, and I don't think everyone was as invested in it as they were other events.
I agree. I think perfect example, I think, of that maybe affecting players more than what we've led on is Justin Thomas missed the cut. Like, he doesn't – it doesn't add up with his past finishes at the Genesis, and then to just all of a sudden miss the cut like that. He was a huge advocate of paying his respects to Kobe and maybe getting more emotional than most out at the Genesis, and definitely at the week prior or 2 weeks prior at the Waste Management. So there was definitely a lot of thought being put into how to pay their respects to Kobe, and I think that emotion could have factored into guys just not playing well. It was a shame to get my hopes up, being a Tiger fanboy, that he did play so well the first round, and then to watch him implode as he did. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see who steps up this week at the WGC. Rory's going to complete his WGC Grand Slam, as they call it, winning all 4 locations of the WGC in a career. So that'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see if DJ steps up and maybe gets back in the winner's circle. It's been a while since he has really, put a W up in a really big event. So it'll be neat to see him. I want to see him get back in the winner's circle. I think he's got the talent, and definitely he's been finally, I think, putting rounds together back to back to contend. So I think he can be a force down there where the ball flies just about 3 miles off the tee.
Yeah.
Isaiah, I know you've played a little bit in some high altitude. Is there any differences in the way you prep for an event when there's high altitude like that?
I'll tell you this, without having experienced it before and without having TrackMan technology at your disposal, making a jump from sea level to, say, a mile above sea level, that is a significant change. Let me tell you. I mean, for Liberty, I played Liberty University. We took a trip to Albuquerque, New Mexico. The course that we had played there, we were playing during regionals. John Rahm was actually in the field my junior year when we played out there. He won the event with a -1. No surprise there. Just horrible weather conditions. But despite the conditions, our shortest player on the team, shout out to Peyton Taylor, was flying the ball well over 340 yards, and he is consistently a 285, 290 carry and pretty much no roll. But out there, I mean, you're seeing a 50-yard increase in carry. So for me, I was able to fly the ball almost 400 yards at altitude if it got a little bit downwind, which is absolutely absurd. Hitting a pitching wedge 180 yards in the air versus a typical 140, 145. So to see those jumps in those numbers, there's really no way to prepare for that unless you just go and hit balls on the range at altitude with a TrackMan. You got to use the same balls that you're playing with because range balls just aren't going to cut it. And luckily for a lot of those tour guys you saw last year for their prep for this event, they all had out a GC quad or a flight scope or a TrackMan sitting beside them to check their numbers, hitting the same balls that they play with, and definitely didn't take them long to get dialed into that. So I'd say the only way to get used to it is go and experience it. It's fun.
I think that sounds for a trip for the Enjoy the Walk guys, because I'll tell you what, I've never played at a high altitude before. Dalton, have you?
I have not. No, it's been something that I've been always wanting to do. People talk about this just immense distance gain automatically the minute you hit a ball in that kind of altitude. So I know just from being down at the Orlando show, we met up with some guys out in the Utah area that said we were more than welcome to go experience some Rocky Mountain golf, and we might just have to do that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun because he even said when we were playing, he goes, "Man, he's pulling whatever number that he normally pulls back home, and he came up well short." He goes, "What is going on?"
Oh yeah, we're at sea level. We're in Florida.
Yeah.
When you come back to reality, it's harsh. to
Not
say
at
the least.
7,000 feet, right?
It is very harsh. You get used to being on a distance high for a week, and then
If someone doesn't have TrackMan, say you're just average amateur player that's going out to a higher altitude area, what would you recommend on how to know what club to pick when they've never done it before?
right. So you have there's a formula for it. You can Google it. It's roughly every 800 feet above sea level you go is roughly like a 5 to 10 yard gain, 3 to 5 with your irons. So for drivers, it goes significantly further, roughly 10 irons, probably around 5. So what I would say to do is on your phone, you can go to your weather app or whatever, or you can say, I'm not going to say it because my phone's going to go off, but if
Don't say it.
Hey, SIRI.
Siri.
If you say that and then ask her, what is my elevation? She is going to tell you what altitude you're at. You can run a simple calculation on your calculator and it'll tell you, okay, this week I'm playing at 1,300 feet elevation. So this ball is going to fly an additional 14 point whatever yards if you want to be that precise. So off the tee, you can account for that, but it matters more with your irons. So if your pitching wedge is going, say 115 at sea level, just add 10 yards to it and suddenly you're a new man or woman at the game of golf.
Interesting. I'll take note.
I would love to be a new man on the golf course. And all you're telling me is I got to move, sign me up.
That's all you got to do.
Man.
Relatively cheap.
Move to where, depending on where you're going, where some of your winters can be 60 degrees and sunny.
Arizona.
Find a happy medium.
Go to Arizona.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, guys. Well, before we get out of here for today and into the weekend, what are your picks? Let's grab some picks here. We got to do it. We got to stay consistent. We'll chalk Isaiah and Dante's picks up to guys who are guaranteed to miss the cut, and we'll go from there. So I don't know. I think right off the bat, I'm looking at a guy who has been on fire these last couple weeks, and I think might just break through. Kind of a sleeper pick. He's not played in many WGCs, but I'm going to go with Lanto Griffin. Yeah.
That's solid.
Lanto Griffin.
Philadelphia guy.
Philly
Big
guy.
Eagles fan.
Yeah, he's been inside the top 15 the last 2 weeks.
Yep.
I think he's got just a great game to contend down there in Mexico. He won for the first time in this past fall. He's got the stuff to win, and I think he's trending in the right direction. So God help me now. Please don't miss the cut. Lanto Griffin.
And he did tear the Corn Ferry a new booty hole this last year. So he played very, very well, and I think you got a good pick there. I think he'll hold it together.
Yeah, he was a guy that won twice and earned one of those special exemptions, correct, towards the end of the Corn Ferry Tour, and was bumped up, I believe, at the end of the year. So he's a guy who obviously, like you said, can go low and tear a course a new booty hole. So
he can definitely do it. But I like Dustin this week, Dustin Johnson.
You finally pick a guy inside the top 10. Look at you go.
I'm going to choose Dustin because he can drive a lot of the greens at this course. And he can also lay back with an iron and still hit it well over 300 yards. He's played pretty well there in the past, played well there last year. So I'd like to see him on top of the leaderboard. But with this altitude change, I mean, it could be anybody's game, but they got to figure out those distances this week for sure.
I like it. Solid pick for you. I hope this man makes the cut for you, breaks your streak. Dante, round us out. Who you got?
Sorry. Apologize. Rory, you're going home on Thursday.
No, you got to do that to my guy, Rory. This guy's trying to win an event. New number one. You're saying he's going to miss the cut?
Not Rory.
Listen.
Him.
Rory.
Mushing over here.
Oh, man.
That's a good pick too.
Listen, I think it's a great pick, and I just don't curse a man like that. I love him too much.
Listen, I didn't get this curse put upon me. It just showed up.
This year. That little red record button. There it is.
You think I wanted this?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Dante's going with Rory. Isaiah's going with DJ. And me, myself, and I'm going with Lanto Griffin, the sleeper pick. That pretty much rounds us up here for our Enjoy the Walk on a beautiful Wednesday evening. Hope you guys enjoy your Thursdays. Are you guys getting out to golf this weekend?
Oh, for sure. We got a nice 20-man game going Saturday. Can't wait.
I like it.
See the lineups and the money pot will be out tomorrow afternoon, so we'll see. We'll get some winter shots for you guys on the gram.
Heck yeah, we're going to be a balmy 48 degrees down here in Salisbury, and I think I'm also getting out in the afternoon with some buddies. So we'll be out and about, guys. If you want to tag us, please do wherever you're enjoying the walk this weekend, at Enjoy the Walk Pod. We've changed our Instagram and Twitter account just to make it a little easier for us to connect with you guys and for you guys to find us and interact with us. So at Enjoy the Walk Pod, Instagram and Twitter. We have the same website, www.enjoythewalk.store. We're still trying to update all of our t-shirts, some new merch coming out. So enjoythewalk.store. You can find everything there. Link in our bio on our Instagram. So guys, interact with us. Tell us what's up, what you think of the podcast. If you like it, go to iTunes, Enjoy the Walk Podcast. Rate us, subscribe, don't miss a thing. We've got some exciting interviews here lined up for the next month. So, guys, thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us. We really do truly appreciate it. And as always, from us here at Enjoy the Walk, get out there, carry your clubs, and enjoy the walk.
Enjoy the walk.
Enjoy the walk.
That's the stuff. One shot at a time.